Okay, good morning. We are up to today Tes Amud Aleph, but we have to finish Ches Amud Beis. Where we are in Ches Amud Beis is about 3 or 4 lines up from the intermediate wide lines. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Afilu Shanim Shnei Eliyahu, even if the years for the Jewish people are going to be like the years of Eliyahu. What do you mean? I mean like the years of Eliyahu in the sense that Eliyahu has promised, we had in the beginning on that page, Eliyahu is promising you're not going to have any rain. If you're going to have any rain, unless I say so, meaning that they weren't going to have any rain. So Yitzchak says, even if the years are going to be like the years of Eliyahu Hanavi, promising the Jewish people you're not going to have any rain, and you're going to have rain that falls out on Erev Shabbos, Eina Ella Siman Klala. That rain is not going to be a Siman Bracha, it's going to be a Siman Klala. So why would it be a Siman Klala if the rain is falling out on Erev Shabbos? Because as Rashi says, I love this Rashi. Look at Rashi, Siman Klala, Shemini Adam, Tzrichim Lechazer B'Shuk. Because everyone needs to go to the Shuk on Erev Shabbos. Liknais Seudas Shabbos. So nothing has changed. Everyone still needs to go to the Shuk on Erev Shabbos. In Israel, it's unbelievable. And the second thing I also noticed in this Rashi is that Rashi says they go to buy Seudas Shabbos. Don't tell that to your wife. But whatever they bought, takeout and the like, they went to go buy in the Shuk. But what I think about in this Gemara is the Gemara later on. If you look at the Gemara later on of Gimel, the top, very top line of Gimel, the Gemara says, based upon the pasuk, we have it later on in Kisavai, "V'nasati gishmechem bi'itam." I'm going to give you the rain in the right time. So the Gemara explains, bi'itam is belele reviyos, belele shabbases. That's getting the rain and the night of Wednesday. When's Wednesday? It's Tuesday night. What's so good about getting the rain on Tuesday night? Because on Tuesday night, there's no yom. Sort of like Monday, Thursday, Yom HaChanasa, when everybody's going to be in town, you have to come in for the court systems and the like. So it's a relatively slow day Wednesday, and Leila Shabbos, everyone's home, no one's going out anywhere. So if it rained on that time, that's considered a wonderful thing. That's Leila Shabbos. That's not the same thing as Erev Shabbos. Erev Shabbos means literally in the hustle and bustle on Erev Shabbos on Friday, it's raining. That's what Rabbi Yitzchak is saying is a terrible thing. That even in the time of the years of Eliyahu was promised you're not going to get any rain. So you might think, oh, if I'm not getting any rain, I'll take anything. And even I'll get the rain on Erev Shabbos, that's still going to be wonderful. Says Rabbi Yitzchak, no. If it's the years even like Eliyahu and it rains in Erev Shabbos, it's a Siman Klal because no one's going to be able to do anything. You can't go to the market, you can't prepare for Shabbos. So even then, in such a moment, that's still considered a Siman Klal. Hainu Da'amar Rabbi Bar Shilo. Everybody remembers him, right? The first time in Shas and Brachas. We mentioned him on that base. He's the first time in Shas. And in Taanit, he happens to have been the second. If you remember on that base, first we had a Bich, and then we had a Rabbi Bar Shilo. So this is our second time finding him here in Taanit. What does he say? He has a very famous line. He says, "Kash yem with the mitrik, yem with the dina." So he's the day of rain is very tough. It's like the yem with the dina. Now you might think, well, that's like the yem hadin. No, he doesn't mean it like the yem hadin. He means that the day of rain is hard, like the day of judgment on Mondays and Thursdays when people come to the court systems. Right on we're going to see Megillah. Right, Monday and Thursdays, Ezra's Takana that they have to have we lane on Monday and Thursdays. So Monday and Thursday is a busy day. So Rabbi Bar Shila is saying that the Kash Yom of the Mitra, it's very difficult having the rain come down. It's like on the Yom of the Din. It makes it like the Sheni V'Chamishi where everyone is busy. As Rashi says, Sheyesh Haimais V'Kailos V'Avshes B'Yom HaGesham Kemadin. It's very busy. It's hacking. It's traffic jams. It's town is happening on a day when there's a court day when the court's going to come in session. Everybody's there. Everyone's busy. There's traffic jams. There's problems. So too on the day when it rains, it's gonna cause those kind of problems. And actually points out Erev Shabbos kosher getting the kosher mitzvah. And on Erev Shabbos when you have all the hustle and bustle, for the people being in the shuk, the rain is going to make it crazy. Yeah. So Amar Meimar Eloi v'tzorach l'priyasa ba'inin rachami u'mevatlin lei. So Amemer adds, if not for the fact that we mamish need the rain for our health, for our systems to be able to have a good life, we basically have no options other than to have rain. We would have asked, we would have asked for rachamim to get rid of it. This reminds us of what the Gemara in Yuma Samach Test. The Gemara in Yuma Samach Test talks about when the Jewish people came back to build the second bias, and the Gemara says over there they davened for getting rid of the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah, because they're like, "Adayim Merakdim," like we just lost the first base of for Avodah Zarah, now we're going to lose the second one for Avodah Zarah. It's too much. They daven for Rachamim, and what the Gemara tells us that the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah appears in the shape of a fiery lion. He comes out from the base of Kodesh HaKodashim. And whenever I mention this Gemara, I always mention you have to understand what was also lost. Right? When they lost the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah, they lost other things too. The Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah came out from the base Kodesh HaKodashim. That means to say it wasn't all bad. It was obviously there for a very good reason. What did they lose when they lost the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah? They obviously lost all the other things that we find they lost in the beginning of the second bias. The Gemara tells us about Basra on their days that they lost, there was no more Nevi'im, right? And the Gemara also Yuma Tessam days. The Gemara says that there was no more Nevi'im. Yuma Tess, it says also they had a Basko, they had something else. Okay, they had something more minor, but there was no more Nevi'im. You can't have Nevuah if you don't have Yetzer Hara. If you don't have Avodah Zarah, as a zelu umat silicon. If you don't have one against the other, then you can't have just a navi. A plain navi is going to overwhelm the system. You have to have Yetar for Avodah Zarah that's going to be taking you in the other direction. So then you have a navi to beat that. Once you don't have it anymore, you don't need a navi anymore. And what else did we miss? Well, we also have no more. We have no more prophets. We have no more Avodah Zarah, but we also have no more miracles. That's the Gemara also in Yuma Chavtes. The Gemara over there says. The Esther is Nimshala to Ayala. So the Gemara says two different reasons, but one of the reasons of the Gemara is Ma Hashachar Seif Kol Laila Esther Seif Kol Hanisim. So that's the end of Nisim, it's the end of Nevi'im, it's the end of Avodah Zarah. But then the Gemara says that they davened for getting rid of the Yetzer Hara for Arayas. That they said, you know what? It kind of works. It's a good idea to get rid of these kind of Yetzer Haras. Let's get rid of the Yetzer Hara for Arayas. And they daven, and again, it came out a lion, a fiery lion, in the shape of shape of a lion. And they're like, as they're going to catch it and they're going to kill it. So the Yetzer Hara says to them, maybe think about it before you act hastily. Think about it. The Gemara says that they end up holding it in jail for a few days, and there's no eggs laid in Eretz Yisrael. And they realize, oops, we can't live without it. Can't live with it. We can't live without it. The Gemara says, so they blinded the lion and let it go. And therefore, says the Gemara, we have no Yetzer Hara for arayas, for the sibling arayas, for things like parents, children, like those basic arayas, that doesn't exist anymore. That Yetzer Hara, which used to exist in the world, we don't have that by us. Yeah, but it's the same idea that they realize that we want to get rid of something, but we can't do with that because we can't live without it. So over here also, Maimar says, if not for the fact that I really, really want to get rid of it, because it really causes so much problems, I would, but I realize that we can't live without it, so therefore can't do that. Shemesh b'Shabbos, if you have a nice, good, warm sun on the Sabbath, it's mamish like tzedakah for the poor. Right, it's going to shine for them, those that are fearing my name. Shemet tzedakah umarpeh. Right, like the sun of righteousness and healing. Rav Shan Shavahosh says Tshuva Seif is called Shemesh Umarpeh, which obviously comes from this pasuk. What do you mean in terms of the sun as being healing? I don't really understand. Rashi says that what we're talking about is it's a tzedakah laniyim shemisadanim ba. They really enjoy the sun. V'nechlan, it's really good for them. Yom bar, right, a clear day. We're not cloudy. They can enjoy the sun. Mischamim ba b'yom atzina, right, and they can warm up on it on a cold day. Again, in the winter, you can have a perfectly clear day with the sun shining bright, but it's still cold. I don't really understand, but okay, whatever. Generally, for people who didn't have heat in the homes, right, the way we have today, so if you have the sun and the sun's coming down, even if it's cold outside, but if there's one place the sun is, let's say, hitting a glass window or something where the sun can get in, it can warm it up even without even without it being warm outside. Maybe that, in that sense, that's what it means. Okay. V'amar Rabbi Yitzchak. So Rabbi Yitzchak says, "Gadol yom hagasham shafilu pruta shebekis nisberachas b'y." Rabbi Yitzchak says that the day of rain is so great that even a pruta shebekis, even if you have some money in your wallet, it's going to get a bracha. Shenema, like the pasuk says, "L'steis m'ta'artzecha be'itoi." Hashem is going to bless, give you rain in your land in the proper time. And to bless all the work of your hands. This happens to be a very unbelievable part in this line of the Gemara that is very relevant to today. Because you read the pasuk, or I read the pasuk normally, I would just say, "Losim tarat rabbi." What does it mean? I'm going to give you rain in your field. Well, and I'm going to bless all the work of your hands. What's the work of your hands? My work in the fields. My work in the fields is essentially the work of my hands. The Gemara is telling you before Rashi is how I realized that this is what the Gemara is saying. The Rashi explains what does it mean that afilu pruta shebekis. Look at Rashi, pruta shebekis afilu ma'asi yadayim. Pruta shebekis is your ma'asi yadayim. What do you mean? When you think about what is your effort? Your effort is what you do at 9 to 5 every day. Sure, that is your effort. But what about your capital that you made that you're able to save, right? That you didn't have to spend on tuition, right? You have money that you're able to squirrel away. You put into your savings account. No one can touch it. So what is that money, right? We could call that working capital, right? Not working capital in some senses that, oh, that's money to build a business. No, working capital in the sense that that's your capital from your Ma'aseh Yadayim. That also could work for you. That still is called Ma'aseh Yadayim in this pasuk. So losim ta'atzcha be'itai. I'm going to give you rain in the fields in the proper time. Ulevarchas kol Ma'aseh Yadayim, to bless all of your Ma'aseh Yadayim, including what? Your pruta shebekis. Your pruta shebekis is part of your Ma'aseh Yadayim. It's part of what you worked already in order to be able to get it. Yeah. This is a very, very famous Gemara as well. This relates to last time I talked about these Gemaras was in 2020 when it was like a COVID thing, but I was giving a whole series of classes on Ayin Hara. So, and we touched on, alluded a little bit to this, the Gemara in Brachas on Chaf, also the Gemara is in the end of Brachas and Arayah on Ches, right, where we discussed the idea of Ayin Hara, right, over there, and both of those Gemaras are dealing with the same, like Rabbi Yochanan, right, Rabbi Yochanan very famously doesn't get affected by Ayin Hara, he can sit outside the women's mikveh and tell them, not, he doesn't tell them anything, that's the other Gemara, Megiddo, right before, but he sits there and he's so handsome. All the women look at him and they think about him, and then it's imprinted on their kids. They're gonna have handsome kids, Talmidei Chachamim, etc. So the Gemara says, but why is Rabbi Yochanan not worried about Ayin Hara? So you could have answered, well, his Rabbi Yochanan at that age he was no longer good looking. The Gemara tells us we're going to see today he had very long eyelashes. He wasn't so handsome necessarily at the end of his life, but that's not what the Gemara says. The Gemara gives instead a couple of different answers as to why Ayin Hara didn't bother him. Either it became from the tribe of Yosef, or because he had what do you call? He had special. We have a special incantations to say when you come into a city. So maybe Rabbi Yochanan was protected, or a person could say, "I'm not Mizara." The Yosef, even if you're not, you have a special incantation that you could say that could protect you. Various ways to protect you from the power of the eye. But we fundamentally have many, many chazals. Not every person with the chazal, like Rav Chananya says, Einon Levada, he doesn't believe in this kind of powers. But most of chazal do believe in the power of Ayin Hara, do believe in the power of the eye to hurt and to harm. And so if you have a situation where you have the eye harming, then there's not going to be bracha. So Rabbi Yitzchak is telling you, Ein ha-bracha mitzui el b'davar samanan. You want to know how you could have blessing? That has to be hidden from the eye. If the eye is shaylit on something, it's going to take away the blessing. So we have this kind of same machlokes also with regards to the Rishonim. The Gemara here is Tzayichem to the Gemara in Bamitzia Ben Beis. So there the Gemara is discussing a situation if you have a lost baggage, right? If you find a lost baggage, so what do you do with the lost baggage? You have to take care of it. In those days they had moths, right? They had moths there, but they had mothballs. I don't know what they had in those days. So what do you do with the baguette to make sure it's going to be good? It's somebody's baguette. You found them at sea of a baguette. How do you take care of it? So every month or whatever, you have to take it out, air it out, make sure there's no moths. So the Gemara says you can't do it if there's other people around. So the Gemara gives two reasons. One reason is because it's gazela. People are going to see this clothing. They know it's not yours. They say, what's going on? Then so somebody's, you found it. Okay, whatever, it's not yours. They're going to take it. Mistakenly, things happen. The other reason the Gemara says is because they're going to look at it and be like, oh, that's a nice piece of clothing you have there. And they're going to cause an ayin harm. The Rambam, when he brings down the halach, it doesn't bring down the halach about the ayin harm. He only brings it about the fact that people are going to steal it. It's one of these things that I mentioned before. They see the position of the Rambam versus other Rishonim as a practical matter of halacha. We actually pointed out, I don't think, yeah, there's sometimes you see an exception, which is very interesting, right? When it comes to either ayin har, when it comes to demons or various different things, we will, for example, we mentioned, we'll talk about demons today, maybe. Yeah, we'll do the Taisus, so we'll talk about demons. But the Rambam never talks about demons, right? In a legitimate way, but he does bring down the Gemara and Bracha that told us when you go to the bathroom, you have to say a bracha. In those days, in their bathrooms, we don't say it today, but in their bathrooms, outdoors, in the outhouses. Say bracha, the demon shouldn't bother you. Ram brings down that bracha. Davening that the demon should help you, that you shouldn't get hat. So we asked, then we gave our answers then. But for our purposes now, Rabbi Yitzchak is just telling us a basic word. You want to have bracha in your life, don't count. Don't be the Sesame Street guy who's always counting. I love counting, right? Even though it said, we talked about the Shabbos in the morning, we talked about, Rashi tells us that Hashem counts the things that he loves, and everybody counts the things that they love. Nevertheless, if you want bracha to be shaylat, don't count. Yeah. And all right, we'll just do one more thing, right? That is according to many of the Mefarshim. Right? Look at Rashi in Parashas Kisisa. Rashi tells us that what's the reason they need a kreifer, right? When you're doing the counting, they need to have chatzi shekel, right? The Gemara in Yuma, in Yuma, I think Chav Beis, the Gemara over there tells us that the I have to double check. I think so. The Gemara says that right? The countings that the Jewish people have always done is Machzah. It's this week's parsha, so it's relevant. We used to try to say a word in the parsha, right? So what does the pasuk say? Kisisa search b'nei Israel kudeim. They have to use the Machzah shekel. Why do they have to use the Machzah shekel? What does the pasuk say? The pasuk says they have to use the Machzah shekel. Why? The Nassim ish kaifer nafshay. You shouldn't have a negev. What's a negev going to come from? Says Rashi, because I know. If you're going to count directly, Hashem wants to count the Jewish people, but not directly. Indirectly, you get hurt. So if you're counting an implement, then you're able to avoid that kind of a problem. Whether or not the counting about Midbar had an implement, look at the Ramban, a whole conversation. Look later on at the countings that happened later on in Bamidbar. Whether or not those countings all had it, there's a Rashbam and Parshas Mates. By the war of Midian, unbelievable whether or not there was counting. But if you look at the Gemara Yuma there that I just mentioned, the Gemara talks about the countings of Shaul. By Yifkidei Batloim, by Yifkidei Babozek. The Gemara over there says he used literally sheep as the implement. Instead of a Chatz Shekel, he used the sheep. But all of this to get across the basic point, it's very dangerous to be counting directly, and that's why the more that's hidden, the better. Especially if you have to count, you have to have a census, so at least count something else. Don't count directly to people. Yeah, so I'm Rabbi Yitzchak, and bracha mitzvah b'davar sam and ayin. Bracha is only mitzvah when you have things that are hidden from the eye. Hashem Hashem should provide bracha for everything that's in the barns. Taanit Rabbi Shmuel and a bracha mitzvah b'davar she'ein ha'ayin she'letis by. Rabbi Shmuel, the school of Rabbi Shmuel taught that bracha is only found in things that the eye does not have the power over. Hashem should provide his bracha on your barns, meaning on things that are not necessarily yet counted. Let's just finish. Somebody's coming in to count his barn, whatever he has, the produce. So Aimer should say before he counts, Hashem should send his bracha in our Ma'aseh Yadayim. Now I should point out that Rashi understands, and this is very relevant lahalacha, that Rashi says you say this bracha b'shem malchus. All right, you say like literally, that's what you say. You say Mamash Hashem Malchus. Yeah. Hiskal Lamed, once you count, you started counting. So Omer Baruch Hashilech Baruch B'Krizah. They say Hashem should bless. Right? Baruch Hashilech Baruch B'Krizah. Here it doesn't say Shem Malchus, but I think Rashi doesn't make an afkamina. I have to double check, but I don't think so. Yeah, if you look at Rashi says Baruch Hashilech bracha. Rashi says Umazkir Bo Malchus, Vaskar Kechol HaBrachas Kulan. Mamish the Rashi's on this part, right? Rashi's on this, not the first bracha. The first bracha is clear. Even on this one, Rashi says you say a bracha Shem Malchus Kechol HaBrachas Kulan like any other bracha. So before you start counting what's in your barn, what you had for the produce for the year, and even once you started counting, then you could make this bracha. However, but once you already finished counting and then you make the bracha, that's a waste of tefillah. That you're not supposed to do, right? Why? Because you're not going to find blessing in something that's counted, in something that's already determined what the amount is. Only in things that are hidden from the eye. So the first thing is, when I see this Gemara, what do I think? I think about the Gemara Brachas Nandal, the Mishnah, right? The Mishnah told us that what somebody who's coming into the city and he hears crying, fetching, screaming in the city, what should he not do? Say, oh, I hope it's not coming from my house. Well, it's a tefillah shah. If your wife's pregnant and you're davening, she should have a boy or a girl, whatever it is that you want, right? And the Gemara concludes, before 40 days, you can still daven. Whether that's scientifically still appropriate, I'm not getting into now. But post 40 days, everyone agrees that's not appropriate tefillah. It's a tefillah shah. Why? Because it is what it is. It's not changing because you're davening, right? So in that same way, the person shouldn't be making a bracha. He already counted all of the fruits that he had. He's already measured everything. What are you davening now? It's already all counted. When you say it's a tefillah shav, why is it a tefillah shav? Because it's counted, or because it's tefillah shav? What else is there to daven for? Maybe now you want to daven for a good price. That thing more is not saying. In other words, that you should be able to find a bracha with it. Just because you had a ton of wheat doesn't mean that you're going to make a lot of money. That's not going to depend on the Strait of Hormuz, right? You could, if there's a problem, right? If there's going to be issues, right? We saw that the simple fact of the donkey driver opening the door and seeing that it's pouring was enough to say, well, maybe go back to bed, right? And what Rashi said that now that there's going to be potentially going to be an issue with the pricing, right? If there's a lot of rain, if people are having a good harvest, your pricing is going to go down. So is it the end of the equation to say that once something is counted and now you know how much money you're going to make? It doesn't follow through. So I think you could still making a bracha, or I shouldn't say making a bracha, davening for the success of your franchise, davening for the success of your good harvest, then it should actually translate into a good market price. They're not the same thing. Right? It's not the same thing. So let's point out Taisa, because you already mentioned this topic. So the Taisa of Ela B'Davar Asamim in Ayin. So Taisa asks him, Gemara Kulin on Kufhay. The Gemara over there asks the following question. The Gemara there says the following story. I'm story about Ma'abar Rashi. A very unbelievable story. The Gemara says that basically people had put down their goods, and some demon had destroyed it. And the Ma'abar Rashi summoned the demon. And so, what did you do? He says, these people, they put the goods on me. He says, what are you doing in town? Go hang out where you're supposed to hang out. You're not supposed to be hanging out in town. And you have to pay. And he told the demon, you have to pay. So the demon was supposed to come on, May 1st, and he didn't show up. It took an extra week. So when he came with the money to pay for the goods that he had destroyed, the Ma'abar Rashi zittled the man. I said, why take so long to come and pay? Why did you not come on the day I told you have to come? So he said, because I couldn't find the money. He says, because I'm not able, and the Gemara, the Lashon of Taisa is quoting down the Gemara. He says that I'm not able to go and Amarle komidi ditzaya v'chosim v'chayel money less than Rishus L'Mishkum. He said I don't have the permission to go take stuff from people that have already been counted. So for Taisa, you're telling me that if you're counting, right, that it's no longer a semen bracha. You can't make this brachas anymore. It's already counted. You can't make a bracha. But you see, the demon can't come. That's a good thing when it's already counted. So why are you making it out like it's a negative thing? It's a wonderful thing. The demon can't come and get it once it's counted. And so Taisus is a distinction. Taisus either says there's two answers Taisus gives. One answer says, look, maybe there's a difference between a situation where where you counted it, and then you like wrapped it with a bow, right? There's a difference between just simply counting something and then like mamish fully, packaging it and as meaning that maybe says Tesis that when you just count something, still not fully done. There's still things that have to be done in the process. So there's still bracha, maybe that could still be possible from it. But once it's fully packaged up and the like, so then there's no more bracha that could be associated with it. So the demon, he's able to sort of maybe come in at the earlier stage, but he can't come in at the later stage. So these two are not really the same Gemara. That's one option. The other option that Tosfos says maybe there's a difference between the demon's ability and we're making a distinction between the demon's ability to affect something negatively, but maybe that's really the other side, the flip side of the coin of being able to do something positive. That is to say, if you're able to impact something in a negative way, then Hashem could also provide bracha, and the two are sort of able to go together. Whereas if it would be a situation where the thing was fully baked and dusted, then there will be no room to give any blessing, and there will be no room for any demons. But when something is not fully baked, so then yes, it's true, the demon has the power. The demon could come here in a situation where it's not yet fully done, but in the same way that the demon can come and take things away, you could also get bracha at the same time, which would make up for it. So that says there's two potential ways to deal with this question. Fine. So that's the Gemara. Yeah. So we'll be up to Memanik. The Gemara says kibbutz, Geisis, Tzedakah, Meiser, Parnas, Simon. These next Gemaras are going to all be up on this thing. Okay. Do you mind turning on the air conditioning? I think it feels a little hot here. All right. So that's the Gemara. I'm Rabbi Yechanan. Gadol Yom HaGeshamim Ki Yom Kibbutz Goliath. Right. The day of rain is so great. It's like the day of ingathering of the exile. Right, the kibbutz goal is Hashem should return our captives. It's like the no, what's an afek? It's like the flash floods, right? Like these streams that they created in the south. You don't see them in the summer because if you're ever in the Negev in the Israel in the summer, you'll see something that's rock bed. They're totally dry, but in the winter, when the rain is happening in Yerushalayim, so Midbar Yehuda, right, will send all the water will come down. There's no major reservoirs there in Yerushalayim to hold the water, so it'll come down the mountain range and go into the Negev, and then you'll see sometimes flashlights. Now some these crazy stories, people die because people chase these things to see them, and they mamish die because sometimes the rain will come mamish unbelievable, and for a split moment for an hour or whatever it is. You have this crazy flash flood. That's the afik b'negev. So we want Hashem to return the captives, right? The same way we want the water again, to be coming through in the negev. Yeah. So this says the Gemara. Ve'en afikim el hamata, right? An afik, right? This kind of a nachal that is created by the water that happens in the winter months is obviously a reference to water. Shenemar v'ayir afike yam. Right, the pasuk says over there afik, and it references it next to the water. So I should just mention that we have a tesis here. The bottom tesis on Gadol Yom HaGeshamim, Yom Kibbutz Goliath. A frek tesis, a question. Tesis says, why are we saying that it's only like the Yom of Kibbutz Goliath? Why don't we say it's greater than Kibbutz Goliath? Right, like we saw in the Gemara in Zion Amud Aleph. Me tola b'mi. Who are we talking about? So I think you can see a difference between here and what we had before. If you look on Zion, over there on Zion, we said, for example, Gadol Yom HaGeshamim. We said the day of rain is so great. Kiyem shenitnem by Torah, and the Gemara said, Yarev kamater lichi ve'en lichi al Torah. Right, and the Gemara over there said, no, Rava disagreed. He said it's Yosem Yem shenitnem by Torah. Why? Shnemer Yarev kamater lichi meet nit libemi. Who's being totally and who? So which one was coming first? We're saying Ya'arov Kamatar Likhi. Right, but the way we're dashing is let the water, right, let the Torah, right, let the Torah, our knowledge of Torah rain down on us, right, like the water. So what are we davening for? We're davening for the Torah. The Torah should come down like what? Like the water. So me, nitl with me, the Rav wants to say it's even greater the Yom HaGesham than the Yom Shin by Torah. That was Rav's part. But if you look at the lashon over here, the lashon over here is the Shuva Hashem Hashiviseinu. Hashem should redeem our captives. Ka'afikim anegev. Me, little bit me. So I think this is fundamental. This is trying to answer, which is we're saying over here that we want the return. We want to keep its goliaths. Ka'afikim anegev. Like we want rain also, but not more. We're not asking for more than that. We're just simply asking for that. And that's why it's first in the pasuk, right? Ya'arav kamota lichi. What we were diving for is second, right? Here, what we're diving for is first. So that's why it's not greater. It's Gadol Yom Kibbutz Goliath. It's like the Yom Gisham. It's Yom Kibbutz Goliath. It's not greater than the Kibbutz Goliath. Good. Okay. Fine. So it's not the Gemara. But Amar Rabbi Yochanan, the second thing on the Maimonic, right? We just did Kibbutz for Kibbutz Goliath, and now we talk about the armies. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Gadol Yom Gisham Shafil Geises Peiskes Boy. Right, even the armies stop when there's rain. Right, like we see in Ukraine. Right, during the winter months they don't fight. Why? The tanks can't move. It's too much mud. Right, the ridges are going to be all stopping with water. The forests are going to be mamish, filled up with so much rain. So obviously you can't fight in those days. Everything stops. So the geshamim is so great that it stops the armies from battling. Right, this is the third reference that Rabbi Yochanan had, right? Which was what? That the rain stops for those that were pesach stuck. In other words, you come to shul and they make a big mishaberach, right? For a while, all these people that are giving tzedakah. But sometimes, I don't know if they still do in too many shuls, but they used to do in the shuls, right? They would say, okay, we have to have a appeal for the shul. All right, no, how much you're giving, they go through every person in the shul. I mean, the mamash humiliate you into giving something, right? So, but sometimes they have a situation where they don't do that. In America, they don't do it that way. They say, okay, we have to have an appeal, and the Rash the man says 100,000, right? And another guy goes, I want to be embarrassed. He says 50,000, right? And then they stop at a 10,000. Okay, fine, moving on. Right, that's a fancy appeal. In that situation, what if somebody says a number, but he's not really going to ever pay? He has no intention. He just doesn't want to feel ashamed. Everybody else is doing it. So says the Gemara that Rabbi Yochanan says rain stops for this kind of a situation. The people who promise tzedakah in public and they don't give it. Right? When you have sometimes a lot of wind, right, but no rain. So it's like a hot air, right? So too ish mishal b'mata sheker. A person who is mishalel, he's getting himself all praised, but with a false gift. He has no intention of actually honoring it. Yeah. So now we go to the next one, which is about Ma'aser. Aser to aser. What does it mean? Aser to aser. Aser b'shvil shetis asher. Everyone knows this, right? The famous Balatum, Parshas Kisisa. Right, Vinasa Nu is a palindrome which tells you that the beginning and the end is all the same to let you on a hint that whatever you give to tzedakah, you're going to get back. Right? So aser to aser, aser b'shvil tzedakah. If you give, we're now in Testament, if you give money to tzedakah, you're going to get wealthy. Ashker Rabbi Yochanan nuka de Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan found the son of Reish Lakish. This is, as we're going to see, after Reish Lakish was already killed. The Gemara in Bamitzia on Peidal, Rabbi Yochanan got angry at him, and so he's no longer around. So he found the nephew, and he said, "Em li psukacha." The tells me your pasuk we had in this also in Brachas. We have it also in the Gemara Chulin Tzadi. Hey, this is a thing about Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, he learned things from psukim. He always asked kids what their pasuk was, and he would take something from that. Soik li psukacha. Over here, the version is Em li psukacha. Just the kid tell me a pasuk. The kid says, "Amar aser to aser." He says, "I'm learning aser to aser." So I'm learning my aser to aser. The kid says to Rabbi Yochanan, right? It's a little bit of an interesting lashon, right? Because Amar le aser to aser. The kid said aser to aser, and then Amar le again. He says Amar le. Right? This is my Tuvayemer theory in Gemara. I'm not doing that in Gemara. I just did it in Tanakh, but it's true in Tanakh. Whether or not it's true in Gemara, I don't know. So Amar le, the kid says to him, "My aser to aser." He says to his uncle, "What does it mean aser to aser?" So Amar le, aser b'shvil shetis asher. Rabbi Yochanan says to him his famous line that it means if you give, that we're going to land it on Shavuos this year because it's Shabbos, right? Aser b'shvil shetis asher. You're gonna be able to, right? You're gonna have a split between Israel and America. Yeah. So if you give money, you're going to be wealthy. Amar le minolach. The kid says to the uncle, Rabbi Yochanan, knew how do you know? Amar le zil nasi says, go test it. You'll find out. So the kid says, a precocious kid. Amar le mishar l'nsila kosh baruch hu v'aksiv lo'isanasos Hashem. You're allowed to go test God. It says in pasuk lo'isanasos, you're not allowed to test God. So Amar le hachem Rabbi Shia chutz mizu. Rabbi Shia says to him, except for this, here you're allowed to test God. You're allowed to give tzedakah and see if you're going to get it back. So Shenemar, the pasuk, and Rabbi Shia says a raya from a pasuk. What's the raya from the pasuk? Aviyu, let's call on Ma'aser, Beisa Eitzer. Bring all the tithes, bring all the Ma'aser to the storehouse. V'yitar b'veisi, right? And it's going to be a ton. There are a lot of food available. V'chanuni na b'zois. Hashem says, and you can test me on this. Amar Hashem tzavakar. Sim le'eftach lachem asaybeis Hashem amar yikosi lachem baruch ad b'lidai. And you can test me out on this and see if I won't open up the storehouses of the heavens and give you so much plenty that it would be like too much. What does it mean? I believe that it won't be like till there's not even enough of enough. Like what does that mean? My I believe that you can't even you can't even like say enough. So it means basically your lips are going to be like dried out from saying okay, it's good, we're good. Yeah, you can't even say enough because you got so much. So the kid says back to Rabbi Yochanan, Amalei, you have this mati hasam lai psuka, you have this tzarichinalach, ulahishir rabkach. He says, if I would have gone to this pasuk in Tanakh, I'm not up to there yet. I'm still learning in Parshas Re'eh. But if I would have gone to Navi, if I would have gone to Malachi, then I would have known. It's pasha pasuk. What do I need to tell you? Aseh to Aseh, your big word from Rabbi Ishia. It's a pasha pasuk in Tanakh. I would have gone to it. I would have realized that if you are, if you're bringing the ma'aser beisa, if you're giving your tzedakah appropriately, then you will be rewarded with all of the good. I should just mention the tesis, a big tesis here on the page. This is not a tesis of Pirish, but we didn't discuss. We can't go through the whole tesis inside, but just to say on the outside, the tesis says, how do you know aser to aser is just not talking about tvua? It's talking about anything. Tesis says even about ribbis and any pragmata that you make, you have to give ma'aser on. How do I know? Says tesis. Because we dash in the pasuk, aser to aser is kol tivu asarecha, says Taisus. It could have just said aser to aser is tivu asarecha. What do you mean kol tivu asarecha? The word kol is extra, and that extra word is there to be married by all pragmatia that you give ma'aser on. Yeah, let's do one more story here. V'su ashker Rabbi Yochanan look at Reish Lakish. Again, another ma'aser Rabbi Yochanan saw the child of Reish Lakish. The Yosef v'Omar ivelas adam to salat darkei v'al Hashem yizaf libay, of the fool of a person who has bad things happen to them, and what do? They get angry at God. It's unbelievable. Rashi's over here. Rashi says, a person who sins, so he has bad things happen to him. He has bad things happen to him. But he gets angry at God. He says, why did some terrible thing happen to me? Rabbi Yochanan was wondering, is there such a thing that is mamish in the ksuvim doesn't have a remez in the pasuk? Everything that's in the Nevi'im and the ksuvim has to be in the parsha. We have to be able to find a hint to it. So Amar Le, the kid says to Rabbi Yochanan, his uncle Atu, Hi Mila Remizi. Do I have a pashut pasuk? I have a hint. Where do people did this? The brothers, when they came to the hotel and they found the food in the sack with the money. So they said, what's God doing to us? Obviously, they had done something wrong. And here you see that they're blaming it on God and saying, what's about God? Well, he have a perfect raya of people that do something wrong, and they nevertheless find a way to blame it on God. So, Dol Eine, the Chazabas, he picked up his eyes. Rashi over here references the Gemara in Bava Kama Kuf Zayin, Rav Kahana, he got angry at Yochanan. He had long eyebrows, so they had to pick him up with silver forks to be able to see. And so he looked at the kid, but Rabbi Yochanan looking is a scary thing. He could kill with his looks. Right. Again, it goes back to the idea of ayin hara. Rabbi Yochanan, the mikveh, they look at him. Rabbi Yochanan's ability to avoid ayin hara was also his ability to look at others in a powerful way. So the Gemara says, Asi ime afikta, the mother came along, right? The sister of Rabbi Yochanan came along and took away her kid. Amar Le, she said to the boy, Tom Makame, you got to get up. We can't stay here with the uncle anymore. The level because we don't have to treat you the way he treated your dad. Just to conclude on this is if you look carefully at the psukim over there, this pasuk vayetze libam vayecher du ish alachiv, that already happened after they met Yosef. Look over there, you'll see that they already knew what they had done wrong. They say mazos asa lekim lanu after they already said Ava Hashem anachna alachin asherin tzaras nashim b'schan alenu b'lo shamanu al kain boy lenu atzar azis. They have to understand that. All right.